with Coach John Smith, day before the NCAA tournament. You've had a long season, but a very successful season with a lot of good athletes. Talk about how the Cowboys are doing heading into this big challenge.
Well, I think it's been a year that we had a lot of balance, and we've had pretty good athletes stepping out for us at every weight class. Maybe not the best in the country, but very competitive. And of course, that gives you an opportunity to be really good in dual meets. And we show through the year that we had a good dual meet team. Although getting beat, in the finals and the national duels, I think it was something that we took personal, and 2 weeks later performed better than we've performed all year long in any event. So those are the things you hope for, and that's sometimes is what you call peaking, is finding a whole nother level and not trying to convince yourself. You have the experience through the season that gives you the ability to think differently at the end. And I think for my team at the Big 12, and as we leading ourselves into this national championship, I think we're thinking differently, that we're getting ready to wrestle our best performance that we've wrestled the entire year.
What do you see at the Big 12? I mean, you guys, first of all, the conference has expanded, makes it a more difficult tournament. You've got some teams getting better, but you got everyone into the finals, and only had 2 losses, and those might have gone your way too. But was that just kind of the culmination of the group getting better all year?
Yeah, and I think that for us, big events being held in downtown Tulsa at the BOK Center, those events get you fired up. You want teams that get fired up about big events. The dual meet in Stillwater. We wrestled in several big events, but in the end, you got to perform in big events. 2 weeks before that tournament, Big 12 tournament, we had a big event in Stillwater, and not that we wrestled bad, but it wasn't the team that I thought it was. 2 weeks later, they went beyond what I thought. And those are the things you hope for. Those are the things you talk about. And this team delivered them at the Big 12. And for us to be in a position to make a real run at this championship, we're going to have to deliver that again. And we're going to need 10 guys fighting for team points.
And you have a great coaching staff and a big tradition, but for a championship team, you got to have some internal leadership among the student athletes. Are there any guys that you point to or see as really helping bring this team to a level that could win this? Every team has a different makeup, obviously. Which of the Cowboys have really made a difference to their teammates?
Well, I think, you're right about that. That championship teams are based on leadership, somebody leading the way and showing the way. I think my leaders are more quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, what they do on a daily basis, I reckon, make sure the team recognizes who in the room is a great performer on their daily basis. A guy like Dean Heil has done that for us.
Yeah.
And he's a quiet leader. He's not real verbal, but sometimes those are the best leaders. Those are the ones that sometimes people want to follow. Not always the loud mouths that talking smack and sometimes that's not the way to attack a championship. But I've got several of them, and instead of me, I look at Cade Brock at 133. He does a lot of extra stuff. People sees it, and that's leadership too. It's not always the guy that's voicing his opinion about everything, but the guy that's actually putting in the work, the extra time, and showing the room how you're supposed to be training.
So with this team, you've looked at the brackets, your opponents. You mentioned in the press conference you thought it would take all 10 All-Americans, but you have capable athletes to make the finals, right? I mean, and for them as a team to win, you've got to have guys progress to that level. Do you see that individually these guys have the ability and the mindset and the training to make it to the last night and be up on that race stand and come home with and put their name on the wall in Oklahoma State?
Yeah, it's a possibility. Yeah, it's a great possibility. I mean, we're in the middle of it, and as a coach, I think that's what you got to ask for. I mean, there's been years where I had teams at the NCAA Championship that couldn't win a championship. You knew it before, and
Right.
that's not the case. Yeah, we got to have a certain tournament, and maybe it might go a little bit different, and we can still win. But in the end, you're going to need to score points from a lot of guys, and in the end, we have a lot of guys here. We have all 10, and that at the beginning of the year I wasn't sure would happen. But they created that opportunity for themselves at the Big 12.
And this season, was a little different than some. Sometimes you have a team that, might clearly look a little better or a little bit more prepared, but, there's a number of teams that can win this. It's not just maybe this team or that team. I think of the coaches that you were sitting with in there, they all think they can win this as a team, right? Is that something that really makes it even more of a challenge?
I think you're right, and I think that we've seen that the last several years. That there's opportunities there for multiple teams to win the championship, and I think that's a credit to college wrestling, what we've done. We need to pat ourselves on the back a little bit. A lot of good things have happened in college wrestling. I mean, we've definitely we've swung our sport in upward momentum, and we need to keep it there, and dual meets have done a lot of that. The attendance at dual meets, even the big tournaments that we've had, Southern Scuffle, has added a lot to college wrestling, along with, of course, the Midlands. But in the end, we just need to rethink about the dual meet, and the dual meet championship, and what that's done the last couple of years for programs, and several programs had their largest attendance during those times. So you hope that gets balanced out, and if we as coaches can't get it done, then we need to step back and let somebody make good decisions for the overall growth of our sport, and continue that momentum that we have moving forward.
Yeah, it must have been nice to have a full house there at Gallagher Iva, right? That's such a great wrestling tradition.
Before, and it wasn't just Oklahoma State or Penn State. It's in a lot of places. So, there's good things happening in college wrestling, and we just need to recognize that we've got good momentum, and let's keep a hold of it, and let's not compromise it by focusing on what's good for my team.
Right.
That's what gets us in trouble.
Right, Coach. Well, I know we'll catch you later in the week. Hopefully things go well for you. I look forward to it, man.
Thanks, Gary.
Appreciate it, buddy.
You bet.